Hey guys, what's up? This is What the Tech, and if you live in the European Union, by early 2020, you're going to start receiving a new prompt screen when you set up Android devices, your phones and tablets, and it will allow consumers to choose their own preferred search engine right from the get-go. So roughly a week ago, give or minus a few days, Google has started opening up the process of open bidding for search engines in order to vie for a slot to stand alongside Google for your Android device if you're setting up for the first time in the European Economic Area. Also, FYI, the European Economic Area, EEA, is just the EU plus 3, so Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland? Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland. Alright, so as I was mentioning earlier, if you're going to set up an Android device for the first time in the EEA, you're going to have a new screen that prompts up that allows you for the first time as a consumer to choose your own search engine, well, your preferred search engine, out of a group of 4. Of those 4, one of them is always going to be Google, so the 3 spots left are going to be decided via open auction. Those 3 spots left will be determined by whoever paid the most in that region, and if no other company steps up to the plate, any remaining spot will be randomly decided by Google. So to give a little context to this decision and why Google may have done this move comes roughly a year after Google was hit by a massive, at that time, record fine by the European Commission. It was a 4.3 billion euro fine, roughly to $5 billion US dollars. So that's a big thing to distinguish about this move in particular. This wasn't ordered by a court or by the European Commission. This move was done solely by Google. And I'm thinking it's probably as a goodwill gesture in order to avoid having a target on its back. Okay, so here's my take on this. First off, Google's process of selecting who gets to stand alongside them in the setup page is flawed from the start. By using money, and just money here, the consumer that's ultimately going to be presented with these options aren't getting choices that are based off of who gives the best relevant results, who has the better search engine, or even for some of these companies, who values your privacy the most. If anything, it should be based off of a combination of who has the second, third, fourth, fifth largest market share after Google, because they still have a dominant position no matter where you go in Western Europe. And then from that point on, use kind of like a digital ballot box where actual users get to vote on who gets to pop up. Because there are some companies that just don't have the finances to commit to that. And we'll talk more about that later. Secondly, this decision-making process may actually go against Google's main goal. This actually may become anti-competitive, but in a different sense. Now, those with deeper pockets, I mean really deep pockets, could take advantage of their monetary position in order to push their search engine in front of your face. If you're watching this video, and chances are, if you even reach this far, you kind of already know that, without having to explain too much, being the default option gives you a lot of power. The option that you don't have to change. A lot of people, when setting up a device, just want to have a simple set it and forget it. That's why some people have Macs or use iPhones, because it's easy and it works. Now granted, to be fair here, there's a good chance that even with this move, Google will still by far be the top dog. It'll still be chosen. But if you're part of the first 4 options that consumers get to see, there's just a chance that they'll give you a shot. And although I can't give you the exact percentages or numbers, these are percentages of a chance, that's still better than getting nothing at all. One of the last points I wanted to bring up on this whole thing was that this is an excellent PR move by Google. If Google as a company, Alphabet, is ever brought to court again or is investigated by the European Commission, which I'm certain they will, they get to point and go, hey, what's wrong? We gave people a choice here. Of course, no one's going to tell you that it's the false illusion of a choice, but they get to still say it was a choice. The options presented are heavily slanted towards those that can outspend their competitors, but hey, a choice is a choice nonetheless, right? So I guess this part of the video is to address something that I thought about, and apparently a lot of other writers thought of as well. You can already change your search engine provider after you set up your phone. And that's a good point. One of the great things about Android is that you can customize almost anything about it after the fact or go back to whatever you want. That's its best feature. However, there's something that we need to stress, and I already talked about earlier, the power of being the default option. In a small research experiment, back in the early days of PC computing, as it was getting up, Microsoft actually asked for files relating to your settings for its various applications. They were anonymized, of course, because they wanted to see what people were changing so they could ship it by default or fix some things that people just didn't like. And to their astonishment, only 5% of people who sent in their files, and these were techies because this was the early days, only 5% of those people who sent in their stuff to Microsoft actually changed anything. Everything else was left by default. So this goes to show, even if you can already change the settings past setup, most people actually may not. I guess the last thing I should talk about or share with you guys before we end this video is that search engine companies overall are pretty against this move. And the European Commission has stated publicly they have plans to monitor this process very closely. I reckon that the European Commission is most likely the most neutral here as opposed to the other companies, because if their main objective is purely just to increase competition, this does do it. There are going to be more names on the setup page, which accomplishes their objective. But if their goal was to erode market share of Google, that might be too little too late at this point. According to StatCounter, the top search providers for the European market, other than Google, are battling for what remains roughly 8 or 7%. Whether or not this changes things won't be seen for some time. So until then, this will be on pause. I hope you guys like what you saw today and hopefully learned something new. If you're willing to try out other search engines, some good ones I have looked out for and actually saw some ads when going up to Cupertino every now and then was DuckDuckGo. They promote privacy and they're pretty proud of the fact. Ecosia, they plant trees with its profits in deforested areas. And of course, there's always Bing if you're into that. I know Spider-Man is. So yeah, share in the comments if you're willing to try a new search engine aside from Google. I am still a Google slave. I wouldn't use it because I think it's better. I have a Google account and I use a lot of things for it. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.